So what is an ahupua'a? An ahupua'a is a land division, usually demarcated by the ridge lines of each section of an island. Hello, I am in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I've been watching the news about water woes, drinking water woes, and I had some general thoughts about it. What I'm going to take you through is how I would bring water. If I had to start from scratch, how would I bring water to a building or a house in an ideal situation? So, in a sense, these types of exercises is wisdom that you either have to achieve or get from observing things, observing phenomena, natural phenomena, observing what other people do, or observing the right prototype or observing the right example. And then the result should be called engineering. And so you must forgive me that this discussion it's a general description. It's a general discussion. So you have water. Okay, let's just say you basically have to find where the closest place where the water is located. Or if there is no water, you move to where there is water, right? So that's already complicated as it is, that statement. Because, of course, since farming was invented, people are supposed to be located where there is water. And if there's no water, there's no civilization. So this is rule number one, unless I'm in an alternative universe. I'll take the easiest scenario, the rainforest, where there should be a lot of water, right? Or quote unquote the windward side of places where there are clouds and there's lots of precipitation. So where there is a lot of water, you collect it. And on a big scale, you collect it, and it's called reservoirs. Reservoir, the definition of a reservoir is a place that reserves water. It reserves water for whatever uses. Let's walk through the topic and let's just think about it, right? Okay, so you collect the water, but if you have a large reservoir, you have a large system, that means you have to account for more people. You have a bigger load on the system. Likewise, if the system, the design system of that, whether it's anything that's liquid, which is when we're talking about drinking water, if the capacity and its design is very large, likewise, if something fails or something doesn't work, the problem is very large. Okay, this is an issue of a topic called centralization or decentralization. It could be for anything. Anything. It could be like what you hear from somebody. Is it a central message, or is it something that you got from your own experience? It could be any delivery of any system, whether it's gasoline, water, anything where you have to deliver something, right? What is the load? How many people does it have to serve? So the more complicated or the bigger the system, the bigger the problems. There should be problems. Hello, I know what some of you engineers are already thinking regarding the design of a drinking system. It has to do with peak load demands. In response to peak load demands, a water tower solves those problems. Talk about an island situation where there's mountains, there's ridges, and there's valleys. It would make sense that the water system, so the drinking water system delivery would be only limited to one valley, where you design a drinking water system only for that valley. In the past, in Hawaiian culture, it's called the ahupua'a. And I have seen in certain situations where the water is diverted from one ahupua'a to another. But that's usually, in the ancient times, that's rare. The water is used in the ahupua'a. So what you would do is you gather the water where it rains the most, put it in a reservoir, and then it gets diverted. And there's certain ways, there's mainly two ways to divert water, above ground or underground. And above ground it's very educational because you can see the water. They're in ditches and they just come, whether it's made out of just dirt or there's a little bit more concrete involved in the diverting. But you can see the water diversion. And then from the water, you take it from the reservoir, and then you deliver it and you divert it to the areas that need the water, that don't have that much water, which is usually finding something that gets the job done for the least amount of effort. That's what we're trying to do. And then you also have to assume that man-made things break, unless maybe it's from another universe, but let's just use on a rudimentary level, man-made things do break, and even nature changes too, and nature adjusts itself. So when you design any system, the system or service is only as good as its level of servicing. For example, as you know, sometimes you cannot buy a vehicle because there's no dealership to fix it. So that's the ideal example. If there are not enough people to service it, you can't buy a certain system or a car because you just can't maintain it. So what is an ahupua'a? An ahupua'a is a land division, usually demarcated by the ridge lines of each section of an island. And so the ridge line is basically where the water decides, is it going to go on one side of the ridge or is it going to go on the other side? And so that's why it's divided that way. It's based on ridge line. And then there's some exceptions about ridge lines, but usually it's not. It's pretty cut and dry from a nature standpoint. So where to put the reservoir? Somewhere where it rains a lot, and somewhere that you're physically able to collect the water, and you monitor it, and the water is released to the consumers. So that's how I would do a drinking water delivery system. I mean, it would be a very huge stress and system. A large system didn't work, that it crossed 20 miles and crossed several ahupua'as, because you're relying on a large system of pipes and just a lot of man-made factors, so that when it fails, or let's just say when it fails to do what it's intended to do, it affects more people because the capacity of the system is large.